Currently, people who are in this room, but for our future generations, so we don't lose our identity.
Okay, thank you very much, Zimba. Anwar Uncle, I'll come to you. How, in your opinion, what sort of structure should be in place? So yes, we are in agreement that we need to talk at a global level beyond COVID and beyond today. So in your opinion, what should be that structure at the apex?
Assalamu alaikum. If we look at the 5 Jamaats, to me, NMJ Mombasa is the mother of all Jamaats, right? I am a member of your Jamaat, Osman Ba, but you're not a member of my Jamaat, right? So we should not be talking about structures at this stage. In Narinda, Kabristan Misin Mevenda, the date लिखे 1870. We are celebrating 100 years, which means 1920. We already had a Jamaat, we already had a community, we were already bearing our people before the constituted body came into being. So, there is one level at which we work with our hearts and at an emotional level, and there is one level at which we work with our heads, and that's another level, that's the formal level. I think what we should do is any structure that we are thinking about, we should bring people together and get the buy-in at an emotional level. There's no point in my being able to have an opinion on why Mombasa structure or women's rights should be discussed or whatever. It is for you. And I've seen so many cases today and yesterday, and whenever I've come across, whenever I talk to any of the ladies, I'm amazed at the qualification they have, at the ability they have, at the capability that they have. And yet, no matter how well qualified they are, there is an assumption that they will get married and that they will have a certain role to play. There is, yes, a legacy we have, a cultural legacy which we need to address. I am not going to be able to address that, but you will be able to address it because you live it. There are our doctors who actually listen to all these young girls who go and talk to them. And if we listen to them, yes, there is probably a problem with our men, but only you can resolve it. The structure that we have in the UK is suited for us. We have a formal constituted body which is regulated by a government agency. Our accounts are publicly displayed on those on government websites. Now that is why we are restricted to having our voting system strictly by membership. And that membership is has its limitations. But if any of you came, I would love to welcome you to our functions, because that's where the social element of our Jamaat exists. If anybody were to pass away, we pray, and I hope that I'm part of the structure that allows me to be able to bury that, whichever, wherever there is a janaza, and to rest that body in our own Kabristan over there. And I pray that that will never go away, and I hope that there are, those are the values that I hope we will always cling to. So the structure is absolutely necessary. If we didn't have that structure in 1920, we would not have presidents or chairmen changing, new committees coming in, and we would not have made that progress. It's absolutely necessary that we have the structure. Question is, what kind of structure, and how do we get there, and what do we do to get there? For example, we talked so much about marriages. Out of the 9 trustees we have, 4 are women, 5 are men. Out of 9 trustees we have, and that actually, by the way, trustees are the same as management committee over here, okay? So there is 7 of them that were born in the UK. 1 was born in Kampala, and there's 1 myself. Now, I have an affection for Mombasa Jamaat, but I shouldn't expect anybody who has been born and brought up in London to have the same affection. There is one thing that will bring them together, and that is marriage. If they are married to somebody in Mombasa, they will automatically connect with you. And I think that is why this marriage is in bureau or something like that, that connects people between the Jamaats, is very important. And how do we go about it is very important. But for that, we don't need a structure. What we need is a rishta auntie or something equivalent that will bring them together.
So Anwar uncle, sorry, I'll just come in here. Basically what you're trying to say is, of course, the use of emotional intelligence, the use of the social structure and the social fabric we have to build on and then develop a committee rather than going from the top to bottom approach and talking of the structure. And the last point is, which you mentioned on the communication, the rishta auntie in English would be the communication links. So that would then bring me to the next question. What sort of communication links should we start creating? Marriage, 1, but then the other communication in the next 1 minute, and then I want to hear from Kasamba what his views are on the communication links.
Yes, I think it is important that we have those communication links, and basically, it is perfectly possible for Mombasa Jamaat to take lead in it through apps and so on and so forth. However, I think the way to do it would be through interest groups. For example, there is, if there are people who are interested in getting married, and if they know that there are equivalent of apps, marriage apps and shadi apps and things like that, why we should have one of our own, okay, right? And things like that.
So the use of technology.
Groups, yeah, technology, make use of it. For example, so many of us are now studying in Turkey, right? Why don't we create a Turkish-speaking group so that, because Turkey is having a lot of soft power now, and we have the people trained there and studied there and so on, and there are reasons why, if we are ever going to have issues, it's probably not the UK or USA or Canada. Canada perhaps and US maybe. UK is hostile at the moment to immigration. So, but places like Turkey, maybe the places to go. They're Islamic and so on and so forth. So I would suggest, if you have interest groups, bring them together, whether they are medical people or whether they are marriages or social or whatever, bring them together. And once you've brought them together, they are emotionally attached to you, and then structure is easier.
Thank you, Anwar uncle. I think you have nailed it down to, again, emotional intelligence.
Jazakallah. So on the communication, obviously, technology is the only way we can communicate. We can link everybody. It's simple because of the distances. Unless we as a Jamaat start looking for funding for business class tickets to Kenya, right? But the point is, we have to focus on the youth, right? Why am I saying that? Technology is the area of the youth. Panja seniors will use WhatsApp barely, right? They'll communicate, and that's okay. We can have that kind of thing. But then the real use of the app that we are talking about throughout the day today, that we develop the same app into something more elaborate, that would be where the youth are going to be using it, not the seniors or us, right? Biopanke kyal karnu khape ke when you leave these communication channels open, we have to also take care of the ethical grounds, first from an Islamic perspective. Like leaving channels open for the youth or for anybody can be misused, first. Second, we have to look at the governing laws, which was covered today, and I think it's one of the abstracts. There is data privacy acts in different countries. We have to respect that. Like, agar Canadian G data Kenya mein store thiye thi, there is a privacy act that needs to be followed, right? So we have to take care of some of these legalities, some of these Islamic areas, but that should not stop us from at least going ahead. And what I was thinking, and I think Monoba also mentioned that, let's take those baby steps, right? Let's start somewhere. Right?
Thanks, Kasamba. My next question would be to the chairman of Nairobi, Munirba. There was talk of unified membership of our Jamaat. What's your take on that?
सदी जो सफर कौम लाई कुर्बान मिल मिलीगा आलमी नसर पुरा दिल इकरा आलमी नसर पुरा मिल मिलीगा आलमी नसर पुरा दिल इकरा आलमी नसर पुरा आलमी मिलन पांजे करते झिलमिल में मन वीला चमके रब जो एहसान पांजी पहचान सदी जो सफर कौम लाई कुर्बान मिल मिलीगा आलमी नसर पुरा
recommended the chairman with the gents and the present chair ladies with the ladies. Noted, Shofet, thank you. So, thank you very much. I also learned that there is Barwani and there is Warwani. So I wish to thank you all for attending and participating actively in today's forum. This was the first NMJ Global Forum, and inshallah in the coming years, as we heard, we look forward to attending similar fora. I wish to thank the scribes, the moderators, the panelists, and all those who took time to prepare the abstracts. We had some very professionally prepared and very insightful abstracts. The abstract book has been presented to you. To each delegate, please take some time and read those abstracts. those who could not attend and yet they sent their abstracts, I want to thank you. Your love for the Jamaat was palpable in this question. So thank you very much for submitting your abstract, despite knowing that you will not be able to make it in today's forum. You are on record, you are on history with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of today's program. I will now hand over to Mehbooba to close the event here. Thank you.
जी आई हथ मिलाई से बावदंदासी साथे हलदासी
रहमत आई नेमत आई मेहनत ने खिदमत से वदंदासी अगिया हलदासी मिल मिल मिलीबा आलमीन सरपुरा दिल दिल इकरा आलमीन सरपुरा मिल मिल मिलीबा आलमीन सरपुरा दिल दिल इकरा आलमीन सरपुरा सरपुरा दिल दिल इकरा आलमीन सरपुरा